Good day, sir. My name is Kent Aaron Steve Dailan, base Cream 2. I'm here to discuss the Chapter 6, Application of Photography in Police Work. Introduction, General Applications. After the theory comes actual practice. Every difficult endeavor requires the integration of two important areas so success can be obtained: theory and practice. There is almost always a tendency to disregard the theoretical aspects associated with a special problem so that the practical considerations can be studied. Without a sound framework relating to the significant theory background of any problem, it is virtually impossible to ensure that the finished product is the best possible one which can be obtained under a given set of circumstances. Photography has and still continue to serve a wide variety of functions in our criminal justice system. The extent to which photography can be applied in the different pillars of our criminal justice system will depend on the size of the organization, its financial capabilities, the enthusiasm, imagination, and skill of its personnel. Listed are some applications which are subject of our brief discussion and for practical exercise during laboratory work to build the basic foundation of the skill of a beginner and of one who's already in the practice of forensic photography. Number 1. Identification purposes. Prisoners, persons, subject of investigation. Identified cadavers, victims of crimes, traffic accidents, airline crash, collapse of big buildings, shipwrecks, stampede, explosions, natural calamities like earthquakes, landslides, cave-in mines, tidal waves, massive flood, and etc. Missing persons for publication and alert warning. Lost or stolen properties, work of art like paintings, sculpture, icons, antiques, expensive jewelries, rare coins or books. Civilians, police clearance for employment, travel abroad, other purposes. Number 2. Recording and preserving of evidence. Crime scenes, homicide or murder, thief or robbery, arson, other crimes listed in the revised penal code as well as other special laws. Organized or syndicated crime, cyberspace or computer crime. Traffic accidents, objects of evidence, guns, bullet or shell, knife, clothing, shoes, other personal belongings. Evidential traces, fingerprints, shoe or tire prints, bloodstains and other body fluids, toll marks, bombs, or explosive residues. Number 3. Discoveries and proving of evidences not readily seen by the naked eye. A. Contrast control by lighting, use of filters, use of different films and papers. B. Magnification or enlargement of tiny objects by the application of photomicrography or photomacrography. Photomicrography is the taking of photograph through a microscope. The camera is attached to the eyepiece and it is the lens of the microscope that is used on photographing. Photomacrography or macrophotography is the taking of photograph with a short focus lens. It is an extreme close-up of small objects to photograph to one or an actual size or slightly bigger. Microphotography is the taking of a photograph of an object in a very reduced size or tiny images of large objects. For example, a microfilm. C. Use of invisible radiation like X-rays, ultraviolet rays, and infrared rays. Number 4. Recording action of offenders. A. Surveillance. B. Entrapment. C. Extrajudicial confession. Reenactment of a crime. Number 5. forecourt exhibits, individual photographs, slide projections, comparison charts, motion picture or video coverage presentation. Number 6. For crime prevention, visual presentation for lectures on traffic education, modus operandi of con game artists, snatchers or hold-uppers, civil defense, informational service shared with other local or foreign police organization business, establishments, banks, hotels, and industrial complex security. Number 7. Public information, photographs for press release, posters of wanted criminals, crime alerts. Every police administrator must endeavor to build a good public image of his organization and its personnel. Media coverage on sensational or high-profile crime is alright, but he must not lose sight on the often ignored day-to-day activity on the enforcement of laws, on humanitarian service rendered like search and rescue mission during disasters and calamities. Example are pictures of a traffic policeman giving aid to an elderly or child crossing a busy intersection, or a beat policeman doing his rounds on foul weather or an empty and desolate street night. Can portray an image that indeed the police is a public servant, a protector, and a friend. Number 8. Police training. Prepared training films or video presentation of personal indoctrination, police tactics, investigate techniques, traffic control, civil disturbance control, riot or prison disorder, documentaries for pre and post briefing on police operations. B. Specific applications. Number 1. Identification photographs. An identification photograph should be an accurate likeness of the subject from which she can be recognized by witnesses or police officers. These photographs should strive to reproduce every mole, scan, wrinkles, and other marks which will help identify the subject. Generally, a full front lighting will accomplish it. The standard photographs or for identification is the head and shoulders shot of the subject, front and profile, either full side view or quarter face. The ear for a person is a very distinctive feature for identification, so every effort to show it must be observed, especially with women or even men with long hairs. Shots with closed eyes or squinted eyes should be retaken to show the normal appearance of the subject's eyes. Full-length body shots or stand-up are sometimes taken on suspects of serious crimes, or like an robbery case where witness has seen the suspect at a distance or while running. The type of photography can give additional information on body contours or appearance and characteristic posture. A person should be photographed with his head uncovered if he normally wears glasses, and should be photographed with it and another without glasses. At a police headquarters or station, an example space should be reserved for an identification gallery where two lights with reflector, a clear and white background can set up so identification photographs can be standardized. The basic arrangement would be that the lamp on the right on the camera will be 12 to 18 inches higher than the lens, while the lamp on the left will be 12 to 18 inches lower than the lens. The camera must be parallel to the subject's face with the lens on the level of the eye of the subject. With the popularity of the 35mm camera and also automated printing machines for the negatives, the ideal camera to subject distance should be predetermined and maintained so the size of photographs will be uniform with the necessity of either reduction or enlargement. The use of electronic flash units for this purpose is also resorted to because of expediency, but cares must exercise that it will not produce harsh or distinct shadows of the subject in the background. This can be avoided. The subject is made to stand very close to the background or to stand about 2 feet away. In taking photographs of unknown cadavers for identification purposes, the face should be washed and cleared of mud, dirt, grease, or other foreign matters before the picture taking. Usually the subject is lying on his back, so to maintain the parallelism of the camera and the face, the photographer must stand straddle on the body of the victim. A data board bearing the name of the subject or his alias, the police department or unit handling the case, number, the date are some of information that are usually included in the photograph. In photographing objects of evidence or evidential traces to show their original appearance and conditions when received for laboratory examination, the standard procedure on lighting, camera position, data board, and ruler or measuring device placed at the bottom side of the subject must be observed at all times. At this point of time, while black and white photographs are still accepted, colors photographs are more preferred. For a more efficient and effective filing system of identification photographs for quick search and retrieval, for faster circulation, the use of computers is highly advised and recommended, including use of digital cameras. The relative higher price of these cameras can be recovered on saving on the cost of films, photographic papers, printing, process, scanning on personal time and effort. Since digital images can be sent via electronic communication, distribution or circulation of photographs of wanted persons, those on watch lists, or suspect getting away from a scene of a crime, bank hold-up, kidnapping, road blocking to prevent their flight or escape. Crime scene photography. General consideration. The primary purpose of crime scene photography is to provide information that will assist the successful investigation and subsequent prosecution of a criminal case. Photography is used as a permanent visual record of the exact and original location and condition of the different aspects of the scene and vital evidence of proof. Hence, the indispensable photographing of the crime scene should be done completely and accurately before objects of evidence are removed, altered, or lost. In the initial stages of an investigation, there are certain aspects that are not readily evident, but later they may affect vital issues of the case. Generally, crime scene photography serve in following areas. Number 1, to provide the investigator and the prosecutor with an accurate pictorial presentation of the appearance and position of objects at the scene, to aid in the questioning of suspects and witnesses with their sworn statement are being taken. Number 3, to present to the court an accurate picture of the scene, thereby enabling them to understand the evidences better and evaluate intelligently the testimony concerning the distances of the defendants and witnesses. Take note that photography is a means of visual communication, basically with a more universal way of conveying a message or idea than spoken or written information in a series of photographs, which will enable a viewer to understand where and how the crime was committed. The term crime scene refers not only for immediate locality in which the criminal act was perpetrated, but also the adjacent areas where important acts took place immediately before or after the commission of the crime. The number and type of photographs will naturally be determined by the forensic photography is the documentation of the scene. It is an accurate and logical story as told by the scene in visual form. The immense value of the completeness must be priority over the cost of films and other materials. It is a wise move to take more pictures than to few. Each crime has individual features which will be photographed. Keep in mind the nature of the offense and try to show the features that establishes the elements of the offense. It is prudent that judgment should not be that of the photographer alone, but in consultation with the officer of the case. As a basic guideline, the approach to complete representation of subject matters is the progress of general to specific. This will involve the coverage of the crime scene from different major vantage positions. B. Perspective or camera position. Since crime scene photographs are designed to present to a viewer of the areas as would have met the eye of an average observer, the procedure for taking the photographs is straightforward. It must have a good perspective or simply stated, the size and distance of objects in the photographs must convey a normal impression to the average viewer. The general view of the scene should be located at directed just as the eye of the witness would be observing the room of areas. In short, photographs should be taken at an eye level position. The term eye level is not restrictive. Taking photographs with the camera pointed up or down normally causes photographic distortion, but there are expectations for this rule. Naturally, if you wish to show an object not in normal line of vision, the camera must be placed elsewhere. Photographic distortions concerning vertical lines can undergo corrective treatment with large format cameras with tilting front and swinging back, not possible with rigid front and back cameras or during the enlargement process. C. Lenses. Two lenses are usually sufficient at a crime scene, a wide-angle lens and a normal lens. Very seldom that a telephoto lens is needed. A macro zoom lens, the most ideal for crime scene work. Lighting. Usually existing room lights, daylight, and artificial light may be satisfactory for taking photographs of crime scenes. However, because of a wide variety lighting conditions in different areas of a room, there is a need for a supplemental or additional lights. While the use of photo flood lamp to add illumination to a room or a sense is something considered, yet it is often impractical because electrical cords can get along the field of view of the camera, can impede free movement within the scene, and setting it up is often time consuming. For ease and speed, the use of illumination from one flash unit is necessary. The use of a slave unit or the application of painting with light technique can do the job. Markers in the field of view. Because of the objection of some lawyers and the court to markings device appearing in the photographs of crime scene, it is therefore wise or prudent to take photographs without it and one with. The legally accepted markers or marking device are the following. Number 1. Ruler or measuring device. Rulers, yardsticks, or tape measures can show relative sizes and distance between objects. It can also show the degree of magnification or placed beside final print. This ruler must be placed beside the subject in the case of fingerprint or handwriting. They are usually placed at the base to maintain uniformity of location in the photographs that will be used for comparison charts. Number 2. Identification data. A small sign is usually placed at the scene, but its data should be limited to the date, time, location, and case or job number. Number 3. Location markers. This can be sticks or numbered signs to show specific location of small objects not readily seen in overall photograph. In selecting a marker, avoid using an article which resembles an object that is originally found in the scene. In placing these markers mentioned above, care must be exercised that they will not obscure, conceal, or interfere with any significant part of the subject. The usual practice of some investigation of placing chalk marks pointing to bullet holes or tiny objects at the scene should be avoided until all photographs without it is finished. Try to understand in practical application of the above aspects. Poor selection and composition of subject, poor focus adjustments, incorrect exposure can negate all efforts toward this endeavor of producing the best photographic exhibit. To confront the task discussed, the photographer should be aware of the fundamental operation capabilities and limitation in the areas of films, lighting equipment, type of camera available for a specific purpose, type of lens suited for various application, supplemental equipment which will increase efficiency. If photographs lag, when responding to a case, a record of the data regarding circumstances surrounding or related to the picture taking of the crime scene must be noted for instant recollection. Usually this information written on a notebook are transferred to the original request, from where the negative will eventually be attached before entering the file. This will facilitate the search and retrieval of the negative when a need for recopy or for court presentation. This will likewise establish the chain of position of the original negative, and photographs printed here are some of the informations needed. C. Specific crimes. Here are some suggestions of what photographs to take on the following common crime. Again, we remind you that the guidelines on the subject in the nature of the offense and the element of the crime. Number 1. Homicide or murder. Since the investigation of death has a wide variety of forms, photographs should provide the information concerning the manner and cause of death of the victim. This set of photographs should help the investigator in the reconstruction of the crime and in verifying statement of suspects and witnesses. Number 1. A. Manner of death. To help explain how the crime took place, show from several angles the whole scene and all possible elements of the crime. A. General consideration. Exterior of the building included surrounding areas which will show places and manner of entry or exit, places of concealment, visibility of various points, shoe or footprints, tire impressions, broken branches of shrubs. Number 2. The room or area where the body was found, also adjoining rooms. 3. Evidence of struggle such as overturned chairs, broken objects, or article in disarray. Number 4. Sign of activities prior to the occurrence like the preference of playing cards, bottles of liquor, cigarettes, butts, TV or radio set on it, etc. In general, article apparently in use immediately prior to the commission of the crime, or article that have been disturbed from ordinary position, as well as article whose presence is foreign or don't belong to the scene. Number 5. Trace evidences like marks of conflict on the body, on clothings, tracks on bloodstains, fingerprints, shoe or footprints, fragments of glass, metal, and other potential clue material. To show the body in the scene and position in relation to the articles in the room, at least 2 photographs of the body should be taken at right angle to each other and camera position drawn from the abnormal position of an observer. Other photographs should include close-ups of visible wounds and other special aspects of the condition of the body as well as the weapon. Cause of death. Crime involving firearm. In cases where firearm was used to an commission of a crime, the work of the photographer is more difficult and complex. The taking of photographs must be in consultation and advice or a forensic ballistician and medical legal officer. From the ballistician's opinions to determine the distance at which firearm was apparently fired and other issues relating to the trajectory. From the medical legal officer, opinion on wounds and path of the bullet through the body and distinction between the entrance and exit wounds. In photographing the body, it should be include views from the direction in which the weapon was apparently fired and another from the opposite direction to show the areas from which the firearm was fired. The usual techniques adapted to show the path of the bullet is to stretch a white cord or string from the body to the apparent point of discharging or from the body to the bullet hole on walls or ceiling or where bullets were embedded and recovered. For indoor scene, take photographs or marks of bullets on impact with walls or solid objects from the point of fire. Take pictures of the height and bullet holes from the floor its distance to adjoining walls. Close-up photographs of bullet holes with a scale and one without for possible determination of the caliber of the weapon. Recovered bullets, cartridges, or shells on the walls or furniture. For outdoor scenes, photographs should be taken on possible long trajectory or ricochet angle or direction of the fire from many possibilities like shooting from another building, from behind a tree or structure, from a vehicle, idle or moving, and a list of the other possibilities. Hanging. In death apparently due to hanging, doubt sometimes exists whether the occurrence is homicide, suicide, or accidental. The original position of the body of a prime importance, naturally, the necessity of administrating first aid measures of 10 results in complete change in the original position. If the body was found undisturbed, the photograph that will help determine the manner of death is in an overall views of the body and the rope taken at torso and foot level. Show the length of the body to the ground. Photographs should also show relative position of objects such as chair or stool which appears to have been kicked from under the feet of the deceased. Close-up shots are the not its size, type, and location on the neck, depth and location of the groove in the neck, black and blue marks along the groove. Use of color films is advised. Signs of violence about the neck, protrusion of the tongue or binding the hands or feet. Drowning. In drowning case, the body is usually the object of interest since the crime scene itself is uncertain except the location of where the body was found floating or snags. Photograph the whole body both from the standing observer position and from ground level position. Close-up shots should show any foam in the mouth whether open or closed, wounds if any, peculiar markings, unusual discolorations, article found in the hand or clothing. The use of color film is also advised. Electrocution. In case of death by electrocution, the usual photographs are taken in the area of scene, particularly the cause of the current flow, or from the electrical connection where the shock could have originated like exposed wires, crack insulations, accessibility of metal fixtures to the deceased originally positioned at the time of shock. Explosion. In cases of explosion, take photographs will help determine either the explosion is directed against property, against persons, or both. To be considered in selecting objects that should be photographed are the following. A. Nature of the explosive device. Homemade dynamite, liquid, chemical, bomb, or other military hardware or stuff strewn about the scene are parts and pieces, fragments of its container, fuse, tapes, wire, clothes, papers, metal parts that are embedded on walls or other objective at the scene. B. Undetonate parts of the explosive. They may be found at distance from the point of explosion. C. Traces of liquid explosives, stains on clothing, curtains, or walls, particles of paraffin, or spillage at the approach of the scene. D. Point of origin. The exact spot where the things is placed and probably open window or doors where it was thrown. Condition of household items. This may be object which will show either the explosions was due to faulty gas line, gas leaks from the gas valves, ruptured pipes, and fitting. Photographs should also show degree or destruction and how wide was the area that was affected. Number 2, robbery case. General views of the exterior of the building. Points of break or entry marked on of force should be shown clearly with both medium views and close-ups. Point of exit. Condition of the room. Be aware of characteristics, patterns which will indicate modus operandi. Places where valuable materials were removed. Articles left behind like burglary tools, crowbars, metal saw, metal file, screwdrivers, and etc. Trace evidence like fibers adhering on window frames, soil, cigarette butts, burn matches, powders, tool marks, show or footprints, fingerprints which includes the places where they are found or developed. Sex offenses. In a crime of rape, the photography to be taken are the place of incidents, signs of struggles or resistance of the part of the victim, and objects of evidence. The photograph of the general views should probably show the remoteness of the area to normal traffic or its distance to the nearest dwelling place, or that the place is not a normal meeting place or social purpose. Medium shots should show broken branches or pressed grasses if outdoor and crumpled. Bedding or pillows strewn about if indoor. Close-up show bottom removes from clothes.
Done.
Torn clothing or garments.
46
Hairs or fibers.
22.
Presence of biological stains like blood or semen. On the body of the victim are signs like contusions, bruises or wounds before it was the usual practice. To also photograph laceration found on the private part of the victim. But this is not compulsory but voluntary. However, a written waiver is asked from the victim from parents or guardians if the victim is minor. 4. Arson fire. The difficulty of proving arson, the willful of malicious burning or property, is so great that every technical and must be brought on the photographic of an arson case is something long extending for a period of severely, usually pictures of the fire in progress and continue throughout the search for evidence of after the fire. The photographs to be taken during progress of the fire are the following: area of origin, rapidity, direction, and manner of spread of the fire. The nature of the burning substance indicated by the color of the smoke and color and size of the flame. the progressive stages of the burning as shown from various angles and significant changes taking place. In unusual arrangement of doors and windows, identity of spectators, the arsonists usually return to the scene to witness the burning. Photographic coverage of a suspected arson case should not be limited to still photographs, but must include motion, picture, or video. The photographs to be taken after a fire are: for exterior view, all sides of the building to show the extent of damage. For the interior view, look for the following: presence of incendiary devices or materials, significant arrangement that are suspicious or to show planned burning, burned areas with deepest intensity of the apparent origin of the fire as seen by witness firearm at the alleged point of origin of the fire. Take a medium shot to identify the location, then close-up photograph of the following: A. Electrical entrances, meters, fuses, switch, and any evidence of tampering or repair. Gas, bulbs, pipings, connections, and also sign of tampering or repair. Fire extinguisher, its operating mechanism to determine either its operational or defective. During the search for clues, the photographer should be around so he can immediately photograph it. Bear in mind that photography subjects are generally black or dark objects, so care must be exercised that exposure setting will not result to underexposure, usually an additional 2 to 4 times increase on normal exposure will be the proper adjustment. In some instances, the taking of photographs for public information, fire prevention, and training of new recruits are included in the photo coverages. Photographs of this sort are the fire trucks, ambulance, medical or rescue efforts, injuries and even death, human interest, photographs of fire victims in panic, in agony, photographs, distress, or even in comical situation are good for press release. Number 5. Traffic vehicular accidents. Death or serious injuries being investigated by the police involving motors, vehicles should be photographed with primary purpose to help determine either there was negligence in the operation of the vehicle, indicate control due to excessive speed or loss of control due to defective mechanism or sudden physical disability of the driver, distances, positions, speed, and fragments left behind the scene of the usual photographic subject since injured persons are removed from the vehicle to the hospital or morgue, and vehicles involved are moved to the sides to give way to traffic. The taking of photographs should be done with speed and precision. The number and nature of the photographs to be taken will vary widely with the seriousness of the accident and the difficultness involved in fixing responsibility. Be sure to include reference points and details of the cause and responsibility of the accident. These lists had been found to be applicable in any case. 1. General views. Exact location or areas or collision. This should include debris lie on the roadway, skid mark, and other evidences. B. Position of vehicles as they are found. Surrounding areas, take one or several photographs from distance, if possible, from a high point, from a window or roof of a building to show an intersection or the street as a whole for possible road hazard, like blind corners, potholes, trees, branches, or shrubs that may obscure vision, traffic control mechanism or light operational or not, road sign and notice. To corroborate testimonies of eyewitnesses, take a picture from their eye level standing position. Vehicles must be photographed in individual for damaged areas. One picture should show it in whole with its license plate for identification purposes. Take a close-up photograph of the damaged area to show the force of the collision, speed at which the vehicle were traveling at the moment of impact. The location of the damage may also help show how the accident took place. To show dents and depths of the dent, proper lighting procedures should be planned. Care must also be made in choosing the proper camera position so glare or confusing reflections are avoided. The use of color films is essential in the cars are of different colors so paint transferred during the collision are clearly visible or recognized. Skid marks, which are the result of the friction between the tire and the pavement when the brakes are fully applied, must be photographed, and also the tire marks. Photograph the skid marks from two directions, first end onto show directions and second side onto show the length. Ordinarily, the camera should be placed as high as possible to give the best view of the mark. Close up of the beginning and end of the marks should be taken to show that they are truly skid marks. If there are interruptions in the skid marks, that must be recorded too. To avoid optional distortion on the perspective, as much as possible, a normal lens must be used in photographing skid marks. Of course, the investigator should take the actual measurement of its lens. The need to take photographs of the tire marks is to identify the patterns of the tire of the vehicle involved. Some investigators prefer the reverse order, starting with a close-up first and work back towards the overall or generally view. In hit and run cases or when an eyewitness is absent, to determine the identify of vehicle involved, all traces evidence at the scene and those found on victim must be photographed. Two photographs of each piece and evidence in the natural size close-up are usually required. One showing its location at the scene and the other in the body or clothing or on the suspect vehicle. These pieces of evidence could be matched up later or on future date. Photographs for orientation purposes must be in conjunction with measurements and sketch. Problem situation like in cement, weather, or rug mark is necessary to use the flash unit. To reduce the reflections from rains or fog, use the flash unit above and away from the camera. Number 6. Article or objects of evidence. Important items of evidence are usually photographed individually at the scene of a crime, as they are found upon receipt at a crime laboratory. These photographs are served the following purposes. 1. A permanent record of origin appearance of the object. 2. It can be used in place of the evidence, thereby lessen unnecessary handling that can cause alternation. Typical of this evidence are tools, weapons, bullets, cartridge or shells, contrabands, illegal drugs, cellophanes, and anything. It can also be a wounds, contusion, bruises, scratches, identifying mark on a body of a person, and other which might deteriorate or change in the passing of time. Several methods can be used in photograph these items at the laboratory if the purpose of such photograph is simply for identification. Purpose: the image should be sharp in all details, free from confusing shadows, and large enough to show important details of the evidence. Large objects or group of small objects shall be arranged symmetrically. If the evidence is not flat, it has thickness or round. Focus the lens and midpoint of the object or the central object for a group of objects. Then stop down the lens to gain sufficient depth of field until both ends of the thick object or all borders of the group of objects are in acceptable focus on sharpness. If the evidence is not flat, it has thickness round. If the texture of the object is to be shown or to show impressions of depth on the surface by means of contrasting of shadows, side light or oblique is undertaken. Ordinarily, through even lightning must be maintained with the uses of adjustable or goose neck lamps. It is again stressed that a ruler or a scale should be placed beside the object of evidence. Being shared with you are the inspiring words of Dr. Paul L. Kirk, a famous American crime scene reconstruction expert, prominently displayed at the Hall of Fame and Museum of American Police at Cape Canaveral, Florida, USA. Whenever he steps, whatever he touches, whatever he lives, even unconsciously, will serve as silent witness against him. Not only his fingerprints, his footprints, but his hair, the fibers from his clothes, the glass he breaks, the tool marks he leaves, the pain he scratches, the blood or semen he deposits or collects. All of this and more bear mute witness against him. This is evidence that does not forget. It is not confused in the excitement of the moment. It is not absent because human witnesses are. It is factual evidence. Physical evidence cannot be wrong. It cannot perjure itself. It cannot be whole absent. Only its interpretation can err. Only human failure to find it, study and understand it can diminish its value. That's all for today. Thank you for watching and God bless all.